The Syrian Arab Army forced a terrorist attempt to infiltrate into the safe quarters in Aleppo and Idlib and destroys their hideouts in Daraa and Damascus countryside. 38 Iraqis dead and dozens injured after 2 explosions hitting Baghdad yesterday. Four people killed and dozens wounded after terrorist extremists target a wedding at a church in Egypt. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In its 7th session, the People's Assembly, chaired by the Speaker Mohammed Jihad al-Laham, listened to the replies of the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Justice to the written questions of the members of the Assembly submitted by the Ministry of State for the Affairs of the People's Assembly. The question is about the possibility of activating Article 205 of the Law of Labor number 17 of 2010 about labor courts carrying out the final judicial rules concerning the Ministry of Oil and the possibility of reconsidering the methods of competitions to choose judges and the creation of special courts to deal with litigations concerning supplies. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon considered the resolution of the UN Security Council on Syria as a real step forward that creates optimism about solving the crisis. He told the Russian paper Svitsia that the UN and the Organization Forbidding Chemical Weapons are working together to carry out this urgent mission of destroying the Syrian chemical weapons. This would be an achievement to preserve world security and peace and a strong incentive to end the dispute in this country. Mr. Ki-moon asserted that the only solution of the Syrian crisis is through negotiations. The Indian Prime Minister renewed India's appreciation of Russia's diplomatic efforts to solve the crisis in Syria and the Russo-American agreements about the Syrian chemical weapons. In a lecture in the University of International Relations linked to the Russian Foreign Ministry, he expressed support for President Putin's efforts concerning the political solution in Syria and the Russo-American agreement to destroy the Syrian chemical weapons. He also pointed out that the crisis in Syria was not tragic for the Syrian people alone, but it also threatened security and stability in the whole region and could have larger security and economic effects and implications beyond the region. In Damascus countryside, a military source said that the Syrian Arab Army targeted several terrorist gatherings in Yabrud and south of Deir Atiyah Hospital, as well as at Al-Mustafa Mosque in Adra, in addition to Hosh Arab, Ma'lula, Al-Rahabiyah and Khan Sheikh, killing many of them and destroying their weapons. In the Iraq countryside, the Syrian Arab Army units chased terrorists, confiscated 6 law missiles, 7 Israeli-made communication devices, 12 ammunition boxes, 14 machine gun and a rifle in Al-Taba village in War al-Lajahat. The army units also killed and injured members of the terrorist groups. The Syrian Arab Army destroyed warehouses and terrorist dens in Daraa al-Balad, the camp, al-Assad Road, Da'al and al-Yadud in the countryside. In the meantime, the Syrian Arab Army units chased an armed terrorist group who attacked military checkpoints in Al-Sheikh Meskin town, Al-Zarura, Al-Hiran, Al-Qadr, Ain Freha and Zahrat Al-Hafayr on the road of Al-Hirak, eliminated and injuring some of the terrorists. Also, the army destroyed their dens to the west of Al-Zahiriya school in Nawat town. In Aleppo countryside, the Syrian Arab Army units eliminated and wounded terrorists in an attempt of infiltration to the safe areas in a number of the city's neighborhoods. The Syrian Arab Army units destroyed terrorist hideouts and vehicles loaded with weapons and ammunition to the south of Aleppo Central Prison, on Castillo Road, and to the east of Haraitan, killing a number of terrorists there. The army units also killed terrorists and wounded others in a series of qualitative operations against their gatherings and dens next to al-Assad factory in Al-Mansoura, Al-Jamajam village, Al-Jabera, and Al-Jdeida, Queiris, and the surroundings of Razm al-Aboud. In cooperation with the citizens, the Syrian Arab Army units foiled the armed terrorist group's attempt to infiltrate towards the Triangle Garden in Saif ad-Dawla neighborhood and Al-Zubair Mosque in Salah ad-Din neighborhood. The army also clashed with terrorists who tried to infiltrate towards Al-Layramoun Square in Aleppo and killing the terrorists. In Idlib countryside, Syrian Arab Army units carried out a series of specific operations that resulted in destroying several vehicles used by the terrorists in Ma'arrat Misrin, Taftanaz, and north of Saraqib, killing many terrorists and injuring others. In Deir ez-Zor, Syrian Arab Army repelled an attempt by the armed terrorist groups to sneak into Al-Ikhlas Mosque. The terrorists attacked the mosque by explosives and explosive devices, inflicting heavy damages in it. Clashes with machine guns and rocket missiles were resumed in Jebel Muhsen in Tripoli in northern Lebanon. Lebanese media asserted that tension came back to the area as armed men appeared in several quarters. This led the Lebanese army to declare a state of alert. On the other hand, families from the town of Yabnin in Akkar were attacked by armed men who broke several cars and beat up many citizens. This created tension among the people of Yabnin. In Iraq, the number of the victims of the two terrorist explosions in a cafe in Baghdad rose to 38 dead and 50 wounded. Sources in the Iraqi police said that a suicidal terrorist driving a small vehicle detonated it outside the cafe, while another terrorist wearing an explosive belt killed himself among the people who gathered in the place, killing at least 38 of them. Meanwhile, 5 Iraqi policemen were killed and 9 others were wounded in an attack by 2 suicidal terrorists to the west of Baghdad. At the same time, armed terrorist attacks attacked the headquarters of security police. Yesterday, Iraq witnessed a series of terrorist explosions that killed and wounded dozens of people in the governorates of Diyala, Al-Anbar, and Samarra. The spokeswoman of the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Mrs. Mardia Afkham, strongly condemned the Zionist attempts to destroy and divide Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied Jerusalem. She stressed the necessity of strongly condemning these Zionist plots throughout the international and Islamic quarters. She called upon all the parties concerned to shoulder their responsibility to put an end to the desecration of the holy shrine of Al-Aqsa Mosque at the hands of the Zionists. Terrorist gangs turned a wedding ceremony in the Virgin Church in Al-Jizeh in Egypt into a scene of a dirty crime. Armed terrorists suspected of belonging to the gangs of the Muslim Brothers attacked the people in church and opened fire at random, killing 3 people, including a child, and wounding 18 others. Bishop Dawood Ibrahim asserted that this crime targeted Egypt as a whole and not just one sect. He also asserted that the criminals would never succeed in igniting a dispute among the Egyptian people. And with this we conclude our news. Now over to the economic news, but after the break.